Live from the Cactus Creek at Ibri, he is the king of prime time, Ghana's undisputed entertainment laureate, and still the youngest old man in Ghana. Put your hands together, show some love for the indefatigable KSM.
It's the KSM show.
Thank you. Something outstanding happened in Ghana, actually. That was mind-boggling. You didn't beat that. I was so elated, man. I'm telling you today. I was so elated when it came out that 3 Ghanaian university students had actually personally been able to mold coal pots. Show them some love, man. You know, hey, coal pot, you never talk. But folks, you know, but I'm sorry. I respect all of you for ingenuity, but trust me, try your ingenuity in other areas, man. Your colleagues are now manufacturing, you know, the code systems, computer languages. What they can now report and your code I respect all of you, but trust me, you can do better. Because of the code they are magazine. They do better ones with clay, molded with, they do fascinating things. So please, I don't want to burst your bubble, for what it's worth, but please challenge yourselves, man. It tells something about Ghana. If we have sunk to the point, say, Obia Kropo to cry, and say, let's just say, the bar is too low. Stick around, folks. I love you all. We'll be right back.
The KSM show.
I tell you, folks, a priceless possession that you should get for yourself is land. Land, man, that thing is priceless. Now, Afro-Arab properties are offering amazing land at Ningo Pram Pram. This is like litigation-free. And that's the thing that clicked my ear. It is litigation-free land at Ningo Pram Pram. Absolutely fabulous. Now, if you want to get any information on this land, please send WhatsApp to this number, 044 109 133. Send your inquiry on WhatsApp and they'll get back to you.
Buy a house and pay in 5 years. Oh yes, it is possible. Afro-Arab Properties introduces Lamine Courts. You can own a 2-bedroom house in a gated community with flexible payment terms. With $57,000 or each CD equivalent, your dream of owning a house will be a reality. Enjoy 30% discount on one-time payments and pay $39,900 or each CD equivalent. Get a 5% discount when you make 40% down payment. Move in and complete 60% within 12 to 60 months. Then you can spread the payments of the remaining 60% in CDs at the current prevailing rate throughout the 60 months with no interest at all. There are more amazing packages made just for you. Project location is at Obeye off Odoman Ablekuma Road, close to Amasaman, Accra. For more inquiries, reach us on 0244 109 133 or www.afroarabproperties.com. Lamine Courts. Everyone can buy a house. Terms and conditions apply.
It was so successful, man. And as we mentioned, that every last Sunday of the month, you be Diabum. So coming on the 26th of this month, yes, Diabum, Kwampa will still be there live, and the food dear Esewani. So make sure to call 055 039 5007. Just say, I missed the first one, the second one, I won't miss. Boom at Cactus Creek.
Cactus Creek. It is no longer Ghana's best kept secret. It's an open secret. So serene, so heavenly. And the meals? Just like home cooking. Cactus Creek. Your soul will thank you. Call or WhatsApp 055 039 5007.
Azepa Essentials has good news for you. If you're in Takoradi and its environs, don't worry. You can pick up a Zipper Essentials jacket at Ruler Unisex Boutique in Anaji, Takrade, Queen of Peace in Takofo Road. Call or WhatsApp 0544 548766.
KSM Show.
Folks, you love my guest today. I know you love her because I love her, man. And I'm in that mood, I told you when I wake up, I test my mood before I decide who my guest will be. Now, my mood tells me I need fire. So today I have not a fireman, no, a firewoman in the house. Put your hands and show some love for the woman who in real life is called Efia Pokoa, but aka Vim Lady. Good lady, how's it going, man? Or should I say, how's it going, woman?
Good.
It's good.
Yes.
Ghana is missing you. We see you every day, but people are saying, so only we see it, but only we hear about it, but only where are you?
I know. I'm hiding small. I'm hiding small in the US with family, but I'll be in town soon.
Hey, Ghana is missing you, so you're not brother.
Oh yes, I'll be in town soon. Christmas, they're not my life.
How's everything?
Well, it's been good. It's been good. Learning new things. So I'm saying new environment, new exposure, and definitely you learn a lot of things. New systems,
We have a lot to talk about, man.
We
but
do.
What's a new thing, Pa? What new thing have you learned that is very different and gave you a culture shock?
The language. You see, and Ghana, you can't brofo. So I come to the US, brofo ne but me go hospital they don't know the name of birth. Like the culture shock was that almost come brofo, me come brofo, but they just can't understand me.
And
sometimes I'm like, can you slow down? Me tracker no be who say me Ghana. I said, where you from? That was one of the biggest shock I got. But I just can't understand. And they can understand me because they're like, accent. Accent. Me say, hey, na na make accent. So that was they say no. There was me twisted my tongue.
It was
to like speak. And to speak like them. I'm like, I'm good. Until they say, remember I'm Ghana, no, I'm so. It's very funny, but me can't Ghana bro for one thing.
Oh wow!
Emma, my question say how people like Kofi and Imoni are there survived in the UN system, because I don't know, say generation we no match that, but Okasa, I don't know if it's pretense, but they behave like they don't understand the English. It's English I'm speaking. Yes, I've got an accent because Ghana no ye tea you baby, a pop louder.
Water. Water.
Who's that? Water. Mama, don't say my daughter. Say my daughter. My daughter. See, that's one of my biggest shocks. They say they're my used to. But from there it was tricky for me.
What coming way back when I was there, you said, what state are you in? We said Connecticut. I said, you mean Connecticut? You see, Connecticut. I said, Connecticut? Connecticut. Yeah. You. Anyway, welcome to the show, man, Lefia. And
thank you. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. Because you can be yourself,
Yes. This is the home where you can be yourself. I wanted to catch Vim Lady as is, man, and get her commentary as is. Now, let me start off with the hottest thing happening in Ghana right now, and I'm sure you're following very, very closely. I've been watching you. Your views on the NPP primaries, how Kennedy just popped up and practically, caused an uproar. What was your feeling about the whole thing?
I don't know how far he will go, but I think in the beginning, he didn't intend to come this far.
Yeah.
But the way he's been received and the kind of havoc, like you said, he's caused, Now he's convinced that he can go far. And I think he should. Just that because in the beginning he didn't anticipate. Because I've known Kennedy Agyapong since I think 2001. And at no point did he say, because we both live in Tema, and we just lived in the same community in Committee 12 before he moved out. Those days, there was no indication, nothing that he wanted to be president. That was why he was all over the place. I think if he did know that he had presidential ambitions or he wanted to join the race at the time, a lot of the lapses, a lot of the errors he made in the beginning, he wouldn't have made. Because I think in 2003, Kennedy Agyapong had a big fight with Chumesi Ankra. If you know that, you remember the NDC MP for Senate. He had a big fight. I was producing a show for Kwabena Kwachi. He had a big fight with him because he made some allegations against him on air when both of them were friends. And subsequently, the commentary he's done, the genocide issue that took him to national security, the comments he made against Charlotte Osei and all that, the things he did with the churches. And I'm sure if he knew that he had ambition to be president, he wouldn't have done those things. Or if he would have done it, he would have done it in a different way than the way he went about it.
I believe he said he himself was surprised by the reaction he got.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. If you look at the beginning of his journey of this presidential ambition to the middle. And if you analyze his commentary, his facial expressions, his gestures, you can tell that he was shocked by how he's been received. He knew he was loved. He knew the grassroots people. He knew the people in the Muslim community loved him because every year he would do these Salah things with them. And they had even given him a Muslim name. So he knew he was loved. But he underestimated how far his support would go. So once in the middle, I think about a month especially after the super delegates, when the results came and he was second, he was overwhelmed. Wow. And he knew that he should take this seriously. So then after the super delegate congress and the main congress, you can see he doubled up his campaign strategy. Yes. And then he doubled down on the excesses. He doubled down on the excesses. So a lot of the things that you would expect the original Kennedy Agyapong to just fly off the handle, he will not fly off the handle. He will do things cautiously now. And that's how my reading tells me that he underestimated the amount of support he would get from the young men. Yeah.
It's such an interesting observation, because it didn't click. I thought he was sort of aware of the kind of influence he held and the sway he held, but you are saying it took him by surprise. The extent to which
Yes, he did know that he had influence. He did know. And I think that he's also smart in a certain way that he had cultivated by default, because he didn't think that he was going to use this kind of cultivation for any presidential ambition into the future. But the cultivation of the young men, speaking the language of the young men, the radicalism, or that he knew that the young men loved him. But the extent to which he was loved, he didn't know. Wow. So the Super Delegate Congress, the results that came, but more importantly, even not the Super Delegate Congress, but the kind of support he was getting from the younger men. If you do an analysis of the voter database, the registered voter database, you see that the highest number of voter population Ghana has is between the age of 18 years and 35. We have 9.4 million people in that bracket out of the 17.5 million registered voters, according to the last voter registration data we have. And Kennedy Agyapong has a chunk of those young men. If you test the ground and the young people in that bracket, a lot of those radical young people, they are the ones who want to see like a radical paradigm shift. And a lot of them sing the language of Kennedy Agyapong. And the kind of feedback he got from the ground kind of overwhelmed him, because already he knew he was loved, but he didn't know that it was to this extent.
I see.
And I think that over the years, and maybe that's also by default, because after Rawlings's days, and most of us were born in Rawlings's era, in Rawlings's days, you had this is a young man who came to do a coup and came into government. But after that, we've had kind of fairly older people being in the realm of office. Kennedy Agyapong is the Nanado of yesterday.
Yeah.
Because if you look at, if you do an assessment of the charisma, the language, the energy, the acceptance level of Nana Addo back in the days of Kumi Prekun, Siemi Prekun, just around 2000, 2009, this is exactly the blueprint of Kennedy Agyapong now. He's speaking the language of the grassroots. And that was the language that Nana Addo was speaking of the grassroots. So after that, there's been kind of a hunger, a thirst for a young man who speaks the language of the people, who is radical enough. Because, I mean, we all know that Nana Addo, since he came into office, has lost that radicalism that was synonymous with him. He's lost it. So he's lost those young people who were radical with him. And now he's almost kind of joined the older population who are more conservative, who are more laid back, who are more, cautious of things. And that's what Kennedy Agyapong is doing. So he's almost like living in the ghost of Nana Addo.
So let's look at this. Having overwhelmed and that groundswell that rose up to follow him, if you were in his shoes, what would be your thinking? Say, hey, still I've got power. Do I continue this? Do I stop? I know when they all got on the platform after the election, he says, of course, he gives all his support to Bawumia and blah, blah, blah. Before then had been a different talk. Now that he knows what he has, do you foresee any different direction coming from him?
I think if he wants to be smart, if Kennedy Agyapong wants to be smart, and if I were his communication advisor, that's exactly what I would advise him to do. So I on air, I even said two things. Number one, Bawumia must manage Kennedy Agyapong because the grassroots support that he's got, the fact that he got 37% in the vote, you can't dismiss that. He must manage him. And everybody knows Kennedy Agyapong's temperament. So you don't want to get on the wrong side of him so that he kind of goes off.
What would managing him entail?
Managing in terms of relationship.
Wow. I want to manage him. Give me three ways I can manage him. What advice would you give?
I think the communication channel between Bawumia and Kennedy Agyapong should be on the level of both of them. There should not be any subsidiary agents between them. He should talk to him directly. He should make sure there are no communication barriers between him and Kennedy Agyapong. He should bring him on board. But and today I've seen some story that said that Bawumia went to Kennedy Agyapong's house, and I think that's a very good thing. He's taking my advice. He should go to him, deal with him one-on-one, give him that sense of contentment that you are not out to get you. There's no antagonism. There's no animosity. You'll be a key campaign manager in my campaign. He necessarily have to do it because anytime Kennedy Agyapong feels left out, anytime he feels like he's being victimized, there's a tendency, and I've seen that trend with him. There's a tendency for him to go all out and say, like we say in Akan, Papa Nyeri, Aboni Nyeri, like what Alan is doing now. Let me spoil that. Let me destroy it. But for Kennedy Agyapong, I've also advised him that it will be in his own interest to manage himself and be cautious from here. Because the amount of votes you've gained, there's a reason why you've gained this amount of votes. So this is the time he also needs to work on his image, polishing his image. The excesses that people said he was guilty of. This is the time that you need people like Charlotte Osei. I think that Kennedy Agyapong should just swallow his pride, go to Charlotte Osei and properly apologize to him. All the people he's made very terrible comments about, he should go there and apologize to them, extend, and build bridges. It's very important. If he has any future ambition of coming back again in 2028, I think that homework, he has to do it. His public utterances, he must be very cautious. This Ahmed Swallow issue that has been used against him, he must find a way of getting lawyers involved to try to purge him of any perception. There's no legal liability on him because nothing has been found against him. He was never related to the disappearance and the killing of the young man. But the perception out there is that he is related to him because he showed his videos. So he must get lawyers involved to purge himself in terms of perception, because the middle class still don't kind of gel with Kennedy Agyapong. They still don't buy his image. They don't buy his message. The young people are following him because a lot of the young people are not too analytical of some of these things. But the middle class, the floating voters, you need them. And they are the people who think, no, Kennedy Agyapong is nothing to write home about. He's just making noise. And you need them to be able to get the respect you need.
And talking about getting the respect he needs, and you said he's not gelling too much with the floating voters, the middle class. wouldn't the rebranding be seen as just a ploy for politics? So I feel now rebranding, I said, it's because you want the power. Will they believe him? Will they actually believe that this is a sincere man who has really turned around, or this is one of the gimmicks he's employing to sway people so that he can get them in his corner?
I think that's a very valid question, and there will always be people who probably will not forgive him, who will not forget. But I think if he's consistent over the next 4 years, then he should be able to at least get people, a few of them on his side. If he's consistent, I think he'll be able to get. But if he goes back, if he's tempted, and that's why he needs to be very careful about his temperament, that under no condition will he be swayed. So it's up to him when he goes for interviews and he's asked questions. It's not about the questions. You remember the interview he did with Caleb Kuda, and later on he was complaining that, journalists ask him these questions. What do you expect him to say? It's not about the questions. It's about your reaction, your response to the questions. And he needs a manager. Kennedy Agyapong himself, he needs a manager, and he doesn't need managers who cannot talk to him, or some of those boys around him who he can control. He needs a manager who can call his bluff and stand in front of him and say that, brah, wait there, you're steady. You're steady. In some way, somebody who can pinch him when he knows he's flying off the handle, that master, you're steady. Stay within your lane. Focus on the question.
Okay.
And when there are things he can avoid, he should be able to avoid and say no comments.
This conversation has become so interesting. A few other angles, but stick around. I'm taking a commercial break. Folks, we are breaking for a quick 3 minutes or less. We'll be right back.
The KSM Show.
It was so successful, man. And as we mentioned, that every last Sunday of the month, boom. So coming on the 26th of this month, yes, boom. Kwampa will still be there live, and the food is so make sure to call 055-039-5007. Just say, I missed the first one, the second one, I won't miss. Boom at Cactus Creek.
Cactus Creek. It is no longer Ghana's best kept secret. It's an open secret. So serene, so heavenly. And the meals? Just like home cooking. Cactus Creek. Your soul will thank you. Call or WhatsApp 055-039-5007.
KSM Essentials has good news for you. If you're in Takoradi and its environs, don't worry. You can pick up Azipa Essentials jacket at Ruler Unisex Boutique in Anaji, Takoradi, Queen of Peace in Takofo Road. Call or WhatsApp 0544 548766.
KSM Show.
We're back. We have the Vim loading on. And today, in case you didn't know, as I said in the beginning, and then you can't politics and things. It's more like NPP politics and things. That's what we're discussing today. Let's go back to Vim Lady. Vim Lady, so you're talking about the possibility for Kennedy to rebrand and everything if he really wants to occupy the seat. Now let's look at this. You are looking at it in terms of giving himself a space to rebrand himself. You say it's a very good overture that Bawumia went to see him to make sure that he's including him. How far can he be used as a campaign manager for the same person that he tore up and spoke against his economic policy so loudly? Could he be a campaign manager for him? Because I've heard people suggesting, that he should just go back and just make up with him. then he can become his campaign manager and bring him along all the people at the of whom back as campaign manager. Is that something he would do? And you see him if a campaign manager as vice?
Running mate, there be a problem. Because if you look at convention system now, more party for NDC NPP or my year over the years now. Normally the running mates, there are a lot of unspoken things that go into it. And why I'm come about thing. But unspoken thing is that normally, usually, they don't use a running mate or bro candidate nankasaso. Okay. And in the context of this, between Bawumia and Kennedy Agyapong, Ubetimia said Kennedy Agyapong is kind of a bro Bawumia so kakra. In terms of charisma, in terms of any and in terms of say watch our politics man sana Bawumia ba. So it won't necessarily be a good thing for him. And be in Kennedy Agyapong on any backlash, there will be a lot of conflict. And I don't know how they will manage that. And I don't think Kennedy Agyapong and Kasampo will be very comfortable in saying that me koye Bawumia vice. It will be like number one, me chen. Number two, me more political experience chen. Me na member your vice and so it won't really kind of work out. And now Bawumia Kasa will always feel kind of intimidated by Kennedy Agyapong or kind of threatened by him to say the work. And same be on also a kind of Bawumia in the past. No, I don't know how he will manage it. And also as campaign manager, he will be conflicted because that's why campaigner, you have to be careful about what you say and how you say it. Because someone no Kennedy Agyapong can't find Bawumia. How is he going to explain to his followers? Me see nipa we nim economic management. Me see okan na ho. Me see omu nyoma fedi, and yet I'm his campaign manager. He will be kind of conflicted, but I think senior campaign manager he can be a key force in the campaign. And then obetime you so the work cancel what he can find a way to justify it, say a campaign but then no cry no still like I'm saying a bear conflict because what can say and what can say so which is which.
Okay, let me throw Alan in the picture now because he too seems to be going for that population you were talking about, sort of like the youth who are majority of the voters, and those who are sort of like shouting this thing about to say, branding both sides, He seems to be presenting himself as somebody who can toe the middle ground. Can he be forgiven, sir? Now, how can you claim the middle ground? You are a part of the structure. You belong to it. You've been on the cabinet. How possible is it to say that? Because I said, let me get your views on Alan as well for
I think Alan, those questions will always chase him. It will follow him like a ghost. Say you were part of the system. Now Afrafanto movement. He knows it will follow him. But that is why I can't begin say Alan, his intention really is not to win the elections or PC in. Papa Nyehi, he feels like he's not been treated well. Establishment not ganged up against him and they bullied him out of the race.
And he's just in there to punish the party?
Oh yes, he wants to punish them because he feels like 2007, 2008, he kind of let Nanado have the day. Because in 2007, 2008, he was the establishment candidate. I even told him, complaining about Bawumia being an establishment candidate, but you were also the establishment candidate at the time when you were the favorite of President Kufuor. But nobody too much biasa. Although Alan Nankasa, I kind of blame the team, for letting Alan down throughout the campaign. For allowing his team to let him down. Because Alan Ba'abemo was trade minister and he kind of laid back. The grassroots work, he left it. I think he gave that job to his people and his team let him down. Because that time, Kennedy Agyapong, Bawumia so namzongos mo. Edu Christmas, sorry. No more Juma. Hardly, I don't know if you know of any record, but hardly would you find records that shows Alan in Zongos, Alan in churches on Christmas, Alan doing Salah, Alan in traditional festival, even in Kumasi where his base is Ashanti region. Hardly was he very visible. And a Jumano campaign, a Jumano politics, it's not about what you do behind the scene. It's what you make profusely, manifestly available, obvious to people. Into the only way because any day campaign, you will not be able to get to all 32 million Ghanaians. So, baby, you must make things visible to them that you are doing this. But I think he was also kind of cautious because he was part of Nanado Abaino, and he knew what this so-called Achim Mafia people do. No, person obe raffle feathers. No, yes, or ambition. Plugging the wings. Already there was so many attempts to plug his wings. This Achim Mafia kind of plugged the wings of Asante Fona. If you Ashanti region, some of the casualties was Alan Chemantin. Another casualty was Dr. Kotose. If you appoint Dr. Kotose, who managed the finance ministry under President Kufuor, to very largely very successful, and you bring him into your government and Nanado, and you give him monitoring and evaluation, the man barely had an office. He was restricted to the Jubilee. Then you really don't want to give him a position. You just want something to represent something. That's exactly what they did to Alan. They gave Alan trade, and their flagship project, 1D1F, was given to somebody, was given to another authority. So there was obvious machinations carefully undertaken to restrict Alan, because they knew if Alan is very successful with the 1D1F Nandaima, it will boost his ambition and his image as future presidential candidate. So they needed to clip his wings. And Alan also allowed them to clip his wings, because knowing that this is what the people are doing, also you're proactive, you think about them, and you go around the system and you do other things to also project yourself, which he failed to do. So Alan is on a demolition mode now. Yes, he's on a demolition mode now, a diabolical agenda.
He's in a demolition mode.
Yes, he's in a demolition mode now. His intention with Afrafranto is not to win the elections, is to disrupt the system, possibly push the election into a second round. Because if you look at Ghana, a history kakranoa and the Fourth Republic, I say 8 years election of second round. 2000, you second round as President Kufuor winning. 2008, you second round. The only thing that changed between Professor Mills and President Mahama was because of Owuono and then what happened in that system. See, second round in the member. So second round mode around this time. It's possible, say 2024 elections will go into a second round. So Alan is on a demolition mode to make sure that Bawumia will not get a one-touch win. He'll push it into a second round. It's very likely, say, the way he feels bitter because of how they've treated him, the agenda to bring him down. If he goes into a second round, then he will decide. So what he's doing with the Afrafranto movement is by default tapping into Kennedy Agyapong market and tapping more into the undecided people, tapping more into the people already upset and disappointed with Nanado's government. And then when it comes to second round, then he will decide. It's very likely, say, again, people say abroni be or the sane, vote no benyan bekwa koma mahama. And then we do a because the enemy of your enemy becomes your friend. Into your second round, now he is easy for him to do an alliance. And only mama, only your friends, politicians, only your friends, dada. So it's easy for him to align with Mahama and say that, look, your second round, now let me align with you. Oba, 4 years and protect my interest, because Alan Wenyini, he's not likely to come back again in 2028 into any diabolical demolition agenda, get his pound of flesh. He will just stop. If he succeeds in stopping Bawumia, his job is done. He's home and dry. He's delivered his KPIs.
Those are his KPIs. Stop Bawumia.
Yes. Disrupt the system and stop Bawumia. Because Bawumia is the beneficiary of the Achim Mafia agenda against him. You see, so if he's able to stop him, his job is done. He knows that he's not going to win. 50 plus 1% is very difficult to get. On himself with the Afrafranto movement, he won't get. But he's such a critical factor if he's able to push it, even if Onya the amount of votes are rejected ballot with the Afrafranto, he will push the election into a second round. All he needs is to stop Bawumia or Mahama from getting 50 plus 1, and his job is done. His job is done. He will celebrate. Because then, you will need him to show up your 50 plus 1. He will become the deciding factor.
And you are suggesting that if he gets to that point and he needs to be the kingmaker, you are saying that he will sway. Your conclusion is that Obesua Mahama more than Bawumia.
Yes, I think so. I think so. I see them more. On one case, the persona, the characters kind of align a bit with Mahama. It's just that they find themselves in the opposing side of political of politics. But Bawumia Padi, what they've done to him, and Bawumia, but because Bawumia is the establishment, like he said in his own statement, that Bawumia appears to be the establishment candidate or consistent. And I'm saying, he did a function there with some of the young people, and he said it. Say Bawumia is part of the system, he's a tool of the system. Bawumia said, Bawumia alliance. No, it won't happen. He will switch to first Mahama side. And again, it's just to further the agenda. And he's on a demolition mood, just to prove a point. Into so the mama Mahama, not a Mahama to me cross 50+1 now. Then he will tell them, say, and now I tell you, the kingmaker no.
Okay. Would you say all this rigmarole war NPP move? Do you think that this is an influence of, as you call it, or as it is called, the Achim Mafia? Has the Achim Mafia impact in the NPP swayed this direction, or you think this was something history saw coming?
It's a combination of other factors. It's a combination of, unfortunately, Ghana, because politics is run more like funded, because we don't do political party funding here. And normally, President no betina kunyaso no. The resources to fund political activities kind of come from his office. So by default, that person who funds the political activities become the bankroller, but also the power force, the powerhouse controlling things. Just like a Achim Mafia, just because the President Akufo-Addo is now in office and the resources to run the party is coming from his office. No. Also, Mama will be about Alan so by party nankasa structure and also so this Afoko, if you remember that Afoko and Kennedy Agyapong move, no, that also kind of weakened NPP in terms of the political party itself and the strength of the party. Because if you look at NPP from 2000 or even 96, 2000, 2004, as a party, the party was strong. And that's why somebody like Damboche, who was former general secretary, could kind of clash with President Kufuor, call the bluff of President Kufuor. Even when 2001, President Kufuor bought power, he offered him a political appointment. He said, hell no, I'm not taking it. We need to strengthen the party. So I'm going to stay put. I'll be here with my lieutenants. You see, so, and they had such a powerful force in the party office. You had Damboche, you had Lord Kome. That team was very powerful. So the party was so strong. And if you remember, I think that was 2007, 2008 elections, or maybe 2004. Now, President Kufuor said they were going to establish a procurement committee for electoral commission to procure electoral materials for electoral commission. Damboche, without flinching, came out, did an interview and said, no, President Kufuor will not do that. It's not his business. We are president. The electoral commission is independent. That shows you how strong as a political party, NPP was, that they could even afford to disagree with the president and still get away with it because they were strong. They didn't rely on the presidency too much. And that's one of the things that President Kufuor even at the time saw that, no, a threat, man. His president, they want to like lord it kakra over the party. Yeah. So it was a threat. So in the second round, he gave Damboche an appointment to just tear the guy away from that power and party to kind of topple government decisions. And that's one of the things that spiraled into NPP now. So now the party is in power and the party itself has less control over what happens in government or on the party than what Jubilee has over the party. Until now, that is why the Achim Mafia influence has become powerful. And in future, when they win again, whoever is in Jubilee will still continue to have more power over the party because power nankasa party system structures my weekend over the years from the Damboche days and they are strong. They've kind of weakened it basically. I don't see somebody like Kodia who was sent to law school by Nanado challenging any decision by Nanado. How is that possible? So those days now MPP was strength. You remember those people, Darocha, baby. These were contemporaries of Nanado. You can't topple it over them. You can't make decisions over the party. Even to a large extent, Damboche is younger than Nanado, but he could stand up to him. Say, you have these young men who are prodigies of the Achim Mafia cluster, so they can't challenge them. That's why Achim Mafia is getting away with a lot of a lot of things. And it will continue even into, that's why Bawumia is seen as the establishment influence. And I think one of the work at Bawumia in the future is to make sure that he will dissociate himself slightly or make an attempt to dissociate himself and say that he's his own man. You remember at Tamils with President Rawlings, when people accuse at Tamils, they're it's an extension of Rawlings.
Yeah. Do you think Bawumia can succeed in disengaging himself from the establishment if he becomes president?
No, he even has to do this before he becomes president. If he will win, he has to do that. And I've heard some of his people say that he will attempt to do that. He has to do it. He has to, because being a favorite of the establishment comes with positives and negatives. It comes with positive. Positive means that you get resources if it is true. Because his people also deny that he's not the establishment candidate. Okasakra, Kenoforiata, and Tie, they've kind of sidelined him. But on the streets, that is not the message there. So he has to step up that game, that PR, that communication to try to sell that message to people that I'm even a victim of the system. But you see, first, he couldn't afford to do that because, yes, this system is to be victimized. But now he can do that because he doesn't own Nanado anything anymore right now. Nanado Kofi. So he should be bold enough to dissociate himself, disengage, and disagree. He must come out in the next few days to try to disagree with Nanado. Yeah, they obey and say they will use the system, but I think there's a way that they can manage it and say that my boss, where they have to do
manage it.
Boss, we say boss KSM say sometimes politics in there about you stage manage a lot of things. You have to.
It's a
choreography.
Yeah.
A choreography. So you have to choreograph it.
Yeah.
You have to choreograph it. We have to make sure we portray and you must buy into it. Because so you have nothing to lose if we create that perception. So we'll disagree with you here and there, but then just to strengthen his position that he's an independent man, he's a man of his own, he has his own vision, he has his own agenda, and behave like he was a victim of the Achim mafia and try to use that sympathy to get additional votes. That is political strategy. And they must choreograph it. And yes, sir, just being a favorite of the system, the sense of Nanado, and we know unfortunately, Nanado most sense now many. It will rub off him, and he will suffer for the consequence of those sins. So.
Very, very quick and personal question. Bawumia approaches you that as a one and you seem to know what you are talking about. And I'll go for a dream lady, but I never born. I want you in my camp. Mommy answer. And son will be asking me.
I probably won't do it because politicians I've not worked with any of them and I don't want to. I think the only time I did some work with them was in 2007. I did some work with Alan Nini team, but that was just communication things, media buying and all that for them, at the time. But I don't think I want to, because what I've realized is politicians really don't listen. They really don't listen. They don't listen. But if some of us, the expertise we have, like this, I predicted this NPP Congress, how it was going to go, the issues in it, all that. And some of the things to just help them. And I think that as media people, sometimes we and I've always said that we are bad in government. We are very good on the side, but we are bad in government. All media people who found themselves in government, they've ended up causing scandals, issues, even sometimes antagonizing their own media people. Yeah. So on the side, maybe some consultancy work.
When you build power, it changes you. Why do you think that happens?
I think it's what I'm saying. Africa, power, and especially Ghana, the way the constitution is, power gives you everything minus life. The only thing you can't do with the power is life. You can do everything. And Obi media the onya power nepe. He feels like Captain Planet. He's on top. He's untouchable. He's and truly, it's not just like having a false sense of being untouchable, but truly they are untouchable. They get away with everything. They do everything. They can get whatever money, they can get whatever system to push around, whatever letter, pick whatever phone, get anybody into any office. They can do pretty much everything. So that gives them that kind of control, as a sanipa. Because you bet me by just one signature, bet me change your life. And by just one signature, you can just torment somebody's life. So that kind of power, no. And I think media for because we don't spend time in power or even doing public service. Once we get into power, we get overwhelmed with the power. And that's why we mess up. And that's why media people, when you do government, we mess up. And if you look at even your information ministers or Maba, those who have media background, media people who've gone into government, they all mess up. Even their own media people, they all of a sudden, they don't even know how to manage their relationship with their own brothers and sisters in the media. And so they are not even able to utilize it to even help their own government.
That's right.
So, even using media to help their own government, they are not able to do that. You have examples in NDC, Standogbe getting into power under NDC, severing his relationship with his own media people, antagonizing his media people. Kojo Ponkroma getting into power. He's not friends with the media people now. Kennedy Agyapong under President Kufuor, lost his relationship with media people. It's always not been the best for media people. And politicians another level.
People because they say ya signal me I say me time so but come on there. It's so nice.
Thank you so much.
This interaction, but there are so many other questions. See, would they plan a part 2?
Because I was saying part 2. I was suggesting last time, saving running mates, women. I suggested that they need to look at women. So we need to do another one. Look at Jaina no Pokwajima, maybe NPP taking another woman instead of men to compete with Jaina no Pokwajima and running mates and some.
Well, let me assure the audience that part 2 coming soon. With the KSM SHOW with Vim Lady, part 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I say Chewa part 10.
So for
Netflix.
Vim Lady, aka Efia Poku, or is it the other way around? But Efia Poku, aka Vim Lady, it's been an amazing interaction. And trust me, there's going to be part 2, 3, and 4 coming soon. Keep your ears and your eyes open, because I check. But in the meantime, I will sign off as I always do. Vim Lady, thank you so much. And to the rest of Ghanaians, I am out of Let the Whole World Shade here.